Is that good stuff, Roka? Alright, decided to go ahead and do our 2-mile loop today as the weather was just too good a temperature to pass up. We're about 40, a little over 40 degrees today, so perfect day for a walk. So we're just doing a long, leisurely 2-mile walk with these guys today. Are you just a funny baby? Are you funny? What are you doing? Yeah. You're just funny. Are you keeping warm? So we did decide to downsize a couple of girls for several reasons. I mean, just having the baby and everything, it's a little harder to have extra goats, and honestly, this is still too many. But we figured 3 does was enough to justify having our own buck for breeding purposes. But yeah, so the goats to go were Mimi and Una. Mimi because it didn't look like she was going into heat for breeding this season. I don't think I told you guys the story, but she was attacked by a mountain lion last year. And she did fully heal, but maybe there's still something internally going on to where she's not able to go into heat. And then Una, she just was our one girl that was not registered, and so it made sense that she needed to go. And plus with her last litter, you know, she had 3 babies, but she had an awfully small udder, I thought, so she was one of the girls to go. Originally my husband had this grand plan of providing the whole neighborhood with goat cheese and goat's milk and soaps and everything, so we had increased our herd by a couple of goats. In fact, Kiddo right there and Zuri. And we just weren't quite properly set up for it and didn't have as many neighbors as we thought we would be interested in having goat's milk and stuff, which kind of surprised me. But what do you do? It was a funny story when I sold Una. I went and met the buyers about an hour or 2 out from where we are, and they bought her. We're fine with her, and all was good. And so on the way back home, when I hit the town closest to us, I went ahead and started doing laundry, and before I know it, I have the Colorado wildlife rushing up behind me, and I pull over, come out, and he goes to the back of my vehicle and comes to me and says, "So what did you have in the crate?" And I just like, "Well, I just sold a goat." And he's just like, "Really? You sure you didn't have a baby deer back there?" And I was kind of surprised at this, but was like, "No, it was a goat. I just sold it down here in this town." And he's like, "Okay, well, we had a call that you were driving around with the baby goat." So apparently somebody saw the crate off the back of my vehicle, and if you see my vehicle, I have a suspicion as to why I was targeted for this. But I think somebody thought that I killed Bambi's mom in winter where there's no baby deer, and that I took Bambi and had it in a crate for some odd reason. But there was apparently a bolo put out all the way down to New Mexico to watch out for a camo Bronco with a crate on the back of it that had a baby deer. So that was kind of entertaining. The wildlife ranger basically said, "Okay, I believe you. It looks like you're right." and just basically just said he needed to check up on these things when they have these sort of calls in there. But again, it was middle of winter. I don't know how I would possibly have a baby deer. They're all grown up right now, and it's, you know, breeding season for them. So kind of entertaining. And then Mimi, if you wanted to know where she went, since I didn't know if I could get her bred or not, I had her on Craigslist for pretty cheap, and I was only getting calls and emails on her for meat purposes. People wanted her for meat, which I did not want to do because we raised her as a bottle baby. So, you know, she's real close to people, loves people. I didn't want to see that be her end just because she couldn't be bred. And so I put it in the ad. I don't want her going for meat. And so a rescue got in touch with me down in Walsenburg and was like, hey, you know, we'll take her and she'll have a forever home here. And so that's what I went ahead and did. And so I drove her all the way down there. That was a good 2.5 hour drive. Went ahead and just gave her to those guys. And so now she has a forever home with that rescue. As for the cougar portion of that story, that was about a year ago. For 2018, we were gone for Thanksgiving to go see family, and so we had our neighbors watching the goats, and I got a message saying, hey, you need to call. And so I called them up, and they're just like, we can't find Magnum. And Magnum was a new baby buck that I had just purchased that was registered. You know, I wanted a registered blue-eyed, you know, buckling. And so it was just a brand new baby I had just gotten and had with my older buck. And apparently he went missing, and it had just snowed, so there was no tracks, no footprints. So that made us nervous. We knew it had to have been a cougar, which we hadn't had a problem with since we'd been living here for the past 2 or 3 years. And so we cut our trip short, came back, and it was going to take us a minute to get the money to get the fencing to put over the top of their area. So we figured, well, we're here, a cougar's not going to mess with them because we're like 20 yards away from the goats. And about 3 weeks goes by, 3 weeks to a month, and we had just gone to bed. I was having a hard time getting to sleep, but I just hear a bunch of clanging and banging in the goat pen, and I knew that was unusual, and having just lost a little baby goat, I knew what it was, and ran out of bed, opened the door, and I could hear an actual choking sound of one of the goats getting choked out. And so I just yelled and went, hey, and I could hear the cougar. It was black and dark, so I couldn't see, but I heard the cougar take off and bounce off the metal roof of the buck shelter. And so I ran out there, barefoot, pregnant at the time, in the snow, and saw Mimi stumbling around like she was drunk. And you know, initially at this point my husband finally also got up. I don't know how he didn't hear me initially, but once I started screaming, he got right up, and I took a look at her. I'm like, it's a cougar, it got Mimi. And he goes looking around, doesn't see anything, and just like, I don't think it was a cougar, I don't see anything. And as I'd looked over Mimi, and like, no, she's got a couple puncture wounds on her neck, she's bleeding, it got her. So we knew it was a cougar, and it had grabbed her neck, and so we cleaned up her neck wounds, and you could see where its claw had actually dug into her hindquarters. And so we cleaned her up, we put her in a dog crate back with the girls, so she was still with the flock, but nobody would beat on her or anything. The girls like to push each other around. And she made it through the night, and just through cleaning her up daily, she did eventually heal and everything. Her vocals were crushed, so when she would make a noise, she'd make a horrible, just scream of some sort. Yeah, I didn't think her voice was gonna come back, but it eventually did. And she's totally normally eating fine, had healthy weight. But yeah, she's now with a rescue, and I'm welcome to go and visit her and see her, which we probably will do eventually. And she's got a forever place to be where she'll be safe. You guys need to stop for a drink. And so these are who we're left with. Decided to keep the 3 does and a buck. Now Roka, she's just kind of my forever baby. I just love her color, love her personality, and she was one of our first does, so we'll always have her. And on top of that, she did happen to be a very good milker. She gave a pretty good amount of milk last year for us, so I'd actually look forward to retaining 1 or 2 of her babies and maybe even show them. I mean, she's got her horns, so we couldn't show her. It's funny because our flock started out with all horned goats, male and female, and then just by chance we kept buying goats that didn't have horns. It wasn't on purpose. And we decided to keep Zuri because she's supposed to have some very good lines behind her. She's got Grand Champion and Best of Breed and stuff behind her. We didn't get to breed her last year because she was too small, and she still is on the smaller end, but we did breed her this year, and so I'm excited to see how her udder turns out this year. And Kiddo, these 2 actually have the same dad, but her mom was Toggenburg and was Grand Champion, and we'll keep her forever. She's just kind of our for fun goat, but she's also has an excellent personality and is our best milker up to this point. And then there's Domino. And he too, we got him kind of in a pinch when the previous buckling I had purchased got eaten by the cougar. I found him while we were on our trip for really cheap, but then when I looked into his lineage, it's like other babies from his gene pool were going for quite a lot, and come from really good milking lines, so we're excited to see what he produces us. So he'll be with us for another few years. And yeah, that's about it. That's our herd for the moment. We'll probably always try to keep it to about 3 does and a buck just for travel purposes, because we like to travel around and we do tend to take the animals with us, so there's more in store in the future. Yeah, normally we have Kenai with us, but he did something to tear a ligament or something in his front leg, so he's got to stay home and heal for a bit. Might be a little bit too nice of a day out for these guys. They're all lagging behind. Is it too hot for you guys with your winter coats? We're almost home. So this is the wiring that I was talking about that we have to do to keep the goats protected from the mountain lions up here. So it looks white trash, but it keeps these guys safe. Like I said, we'd been here for 2 or 3 years, hadn't had a problem. They've had this iron to keep them safe from anything else, but I guess the cougars finally found us. So all the way throughout their area, they've got the wire covering the tops so that no cougars can come in. I would love to have some night vision because I guarantee that they've come around and just haven't been able to get anybody. So, but yeah, it was about right here that Mimi had been attacked, and it's back through that back way that it used to be the where we kept our bucks, and it bounced off the back shelter that's back there and bent the metal, so I had to go back in and strengthen that back up. But these guys are safe now, huh? eventually we want to build them a better area up the mountain. But we got to keep in mind that anything we do, it's got to have this wire on the top. So, but we want to make something that's a little bit nicer for them and where they can access some of the rocky croppings out there up the mountain. So, but that's about it for today, and we'll see you next time.